Hi, everyone. This is the Navarro for Many Latinos. Racial Identity is More Culture Than Color podcast presented by Rodrigo Alator, Sofia Gonzalez, Klarinsky, Sherinsky, Noel, Clinton, Thatch, and Van Tran. All right, so our first question is it right if someone were to categorize a person based on their skin color, or should we all be categorized by our ethnicities? Who wants to first take that question?
Let me give me an
Yeah,
idea of the question.
jump in.
Yeah, I think it is not right when you categorize somebody based on their skin color because it seems like it's not true because uh, just a color and you cannot tell like what race or what ethnicity they are. Like in the case if they are mixed, you cannot tell. For example, if you spell somebody like they color blind, they cannot figure out the color of the person. So how they can know who they are, what race, what ethnicity they are. So I think the skin color of a person is not a good idea to base on to identify a person. That's what I thought.
So, so what you're saying is that you cannot guess someone by their outside, but you cannot guess on their insides.
No, it's I don't know who inside a person. I just say based on outside of them, but I'm not going to tell from. I personally cannot tell if they are mixed. If they are mixed, I don't know what race they are based on their color or based on their outlook. It's different to tell a person race based on their skin color. I mean, like black and white is obviously you can see that, but the other race you cannot really tell, right? What you guys think? That's my opinion.
I mean, personally, like as a Latina, I've always kind of thought I should be more categorized by my ethnicity, only because I'm not only Puerto Rican, I am Trinidadian and Tobagonian. So it's like I've always had a mixed family. So when it comes to like when people ask, so what are you? I kind of just talk about my ethnicity rather than like my race. Because if you look at both my parents, like my dad looks like me, but my mom is like darker than me. So oftentimes I've never really liked the way that we categorize people based on race, only because race is a social construct, as we have learned in class before. And it's really only a social construct that has been created to divide us politically and socially. When in reality, like when we categorize ourselves by our ethnicities, like it makes a lot more sense than categorizing by race, because then it ends up being something. Because when someone's a certain ethnicity, they don't need to be a certain race to be within that ethnicity. So like when we're talking about being Latino, like you don't need to be lighter to be a Latino. You don't need to be darker to be a Latino. Anybody can be a Latino no matter what they look like.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree on that. Yeah. But like I think like I know that like people get confused when they fill the form on census. Like, do you guys think should the census reevaluate its work on the race question to make people uh, um more clearly to understand what census want categorize them? What do you guys think about that?
100%. I feel like, I mean, you're like ostracizing a bunch of race or ethnicities out there that just like, no, a bit confusing for some individuals out there. Half the time they don't even put the right race down. It's just they either put other or whites. So
Yeah.
going back to your question, yeah, for sure. Definitely keep rewording it more often than anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
definitely think reevaluating the wording on the census is makes it more equitable. So like instead of like keeping it as it is every single year, it makes it a lot more equitable when we're able to like change it as so it forms to, as we said in the lecture, we need to move from this like 18th century binary of race to something that's more 21st century, because let's face it, like the US is becoming a more multicultural place. A lot more people are mixed race now, mixed ethnicity.
Mhm.
And so oftentimes it doesn't make a lot of sense when it comes to like continuing to have a race question. We can still continue to have a race question, but I definitely think there needs to be some sort of like ethnicity option so people don't feel ostracized and we're not excluding people from how they feel represented, because it ends up affecting like infrastructure. It ends up funding for infrastructure, funding for schools, funding for um new projects that go on in the community. So when
Yeah.
we have these like this lack of understanding of what a community actually looks like, it doesn't just end up causing issues and like identity crises for individuals taking the census. It ends up like actually affecting their lives, like where they send their kids to school, where they go to school, where
Very
they drive on the
impactful.
road, what type of businesses they have in town, um, accessibility to fresh fruit and vegetables, whether or not they're town or place is a food desert.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's very impact on the Latino community. You know, it's impact everything in your real life. Like for example, the employment. Well, employment too. Like it's kind of like racist sometimes. Like when you Latino, I think, and then you go apply for a job, and people look at you like, oh, you are Latino, and then they kind of like give you like um bottom up the other person, the other race, like give the Latino people like below of white or below of Asian, something like that. So it's really impact them, and it seems like racist sometimes. Yeah. So
Do we want to move to our third question?
yeah.
Uh, so our third question is, despite a majority of Latino people identifying as their own ethnicities, how do issues of colorism and race impact the Latino community?
Wouldn't
Oh,
that cause divide in a way?
what you say, Kendall? I couldn't hear
Wouldn't it
you.
cause a divide in a way since there are different ethnicities in play here? I mean, you can judge someone by their outside, but not the inside. Inside is who they really are by the culture, who they see as themselves,
Mhm.
etc. So wouldn't it cause divide in a way?
Um, can you say more about this?
Like everyone has different cultures, right?
Yep.
So then wouldn't that cause a divide because like everybody has oh my god. Okay, so pretty much when it causes divide because there are different ethnicities in play here, and one that make a huge difference between every other Latino.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. I think I'm pretty much agree with your idea. Yeah. And I think we kind of out of time now. So I have a last question for you guys about the New York Times article that how do the fight against Latino American Studies program in K-12 schools reflect upon the larger fight against multicultural education within the U.S. So anybody want to give opinion on this?
I mean, I think the fight against Latin American studies programs in K through 12 education is just a part of a larger issue of like the lack of education around like what this type of education is. Like for a lot of like states, they start banning it only because I guess they're afraid to reflect upon what type of education,
Yeah.
like I'm trying to explain. I'm losing my train of thought as we say, but like I feel like politicians become afraid when we start to teach multicultural education because then they think people will become afraid because they have negative connotations about Latino individuals. But what time are we at now?
Yeah, we cut out time now. We have a couple of seconds. Well,
All
yeah,
right.
it's it's very good topic to talk about with you guys today, and that's I think that's all we have today, right?
Yeah, I
Emily?
think that's all we have.
Yeah.
Um, well, thank you so much for listening, guys. That's all we really have for today, but this is again the Navarro for many Latinos. Racial identity is more culture than color podcast. See you guys later, and I'm gonna stop recording.